That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Ramer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. Our guest today, one of my friends for a long time. So great to have him back on the podcast, Mr. Larry Hagner. Larry is a friend. He's a husband. He's a father. He's also the founder of the Dad's Edge podcast, which I would highly recommend. If you haven't checked that out, please go and do that. And we'll leave all the links from today's conversation in the show notes for you, so it's easy to find. We're going to talk about being a father today, being a sober father at that, being a husband, just being a dude all around. What does that look like? What does masculinity look like today? How do we be better fathers? How do we be better human beings? The wins, the challenges, all of the above. We're also going to talk about Larry's new book coming out called The Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood, which is some exciting stuff. So I'm stoked to hear more about that. So pumped for this conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. Before we get to Larry, just let me give you a few quick announcements here. Do you want to quit drinking for 30 days or more? With New Year's right around the corner, there's no better time than right now, than today, to give up drinking for 30 days. See what that's like. What is life like without alcohol? That Sober Guy can help you do that with the Quit Drinking Dude 30-day alcohol-free challenge. That 30-day Sober Guy challenge features 30 podcasts in 30 days to help keep you accountable. Along with discussions, worksheets, you get exercises to help men better understand, why the heck are we drinking? What does that look like? We explore new ideas. We share a lot of relatable experiences, and you become part of the Sober Guy crew of like-minded men looking for freedom from alcohol. So if you sign up now by going to thatsoberguy.com, you get $10 off the Quit Drinking Dude 30-day challenge. So be sure to check that out. You can also find podcasts, meetings, all kinds of other resources, once again, by going to thatsoberguy.com, and follow us on Instagram at thatsoberguypodcast. Once again, all the links will be in the show notes today. All right, without further ado, my good friend Larry Hagner. Dude, it's been a while since we've got to hang out and chat, but I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast today. So thanks for taking the time to do that.
Yeah, man. You were like a Dad Edge OG. That's what we call them. Like the guys who started back in 2016 when we had no clue what the heck we were even really doing. We just knew we wanted to help dudes out, help men, fathers out, and husbands out. You know, we just knew that. And just creating, I would say when you were a part of it, like in the early days, man, it was more like the experimental phase of it. Like, okay, like what do men, we kind of knew what we all needed, but to put it in a structured format and a space and that kind of thing. And you were one of the guys that came on board like super early, man. Yeah. And so it's been an honor, like getting to know you over the past, gosh, it's been like 8 years almost, I think. I know.
It's flown by. It really has. Yeah. And well, with that, and it's such a cool thing to watch grow and to be a part of early on, of course. And you actually introduced me to the first mastermind group. I went on to, we have our own, a couple dudes who meet off and on, over the last year and a half. And just from that, which I kind of headed up, and it's just some buddies who are kind of all over the place, but I kind of learned about that from you back in the day, and then went on to talk with Aaron Walker, who I know is big in, just a great dude, big into masterminds. That's his business. And that whole concept of men getting together, whether it's a mastermind or community or whatever it is, and being honest and open and talking about things, from being sober to being, fathers in relationships, like all that stuff, man, it's so powerful. And it really opened up a whole new door to life for me. So thank you for that, man. You were one of the early ones who really introduced me to that. So it's pretty awesome to be a part of.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah. I'm a big believer. It's funny you mentioned Aaron Walker's name, because he was the first mastermind that I joined. I didn't even know what it was. And once I joined it, I mean, dude, it was $500 a month back in 2015. That was like a chunk of change for me back. That's a chunk of change anyway. And I'm like, I was like, Aaron, what? This is before I joined. And the one thing that he shared with me, he's like, have you ever been a part of anything like this? I'm like, no. He's like, listen, if you don't have a tribe of like-minded men who have a similar vision, similar goals, and men who are ahead of you, right? Yeah. Who can also point you in the right direction. He's like, you are missing out on the shortest learning curve known to man. He's like, so I'm talking in your marriage, raising your boys, in your career, in your business, mindset, the whole 9 yards. You want to be held accountable to a much higher level, and iron sharpens iron. This is where you need to be. And I told him, I was like, I don't think I can afford that, Aaron. And he goes, yeah, okay. Yeah, I get that. He goes, but he goes, can I ask you one question? And he's not a salesperson. Like Aaron did not need my $500 a month. Yeah. He became a millionaire at the age of 27. And when I met Aaron, he was 57 and had bought and sold 8 businesses. Like he was doing masterminding because he loved it, and coaching. And I'll never forget the last question Aaron asked me. He goes, all right, here's the deal. I just want you to simmer on this. Okay. He's like, Larry, I want you to think about something here. I want you to think about where at the time my brand was Good Dad Project. I had no clue what the heck to do with it. Not a clue. I just knew I was podcasting. I was like, I want to do something bigger. I just don't know what it is. And, I also wanted to improve my marriage, and I wanted to improve my mindset, my patience. And I wanted those things. I just didn't know how to get them. And I'll never forget what Aaron said. He goes, dude, I want you to think about something right now. The headspace you're in, where you're headed, everything that's going on. I want you to think about the Good Dad Project. I want you to fast forward a year from the day you and I are talking. And I want you to think about if you did nothing, if you got no point in the right direction, no accountability, no map, no blueprint, no one mentoring you, no one showing you the way, where's all this going to be? Yeah. And he could tell, I was like, wow. Because all I could think about in that moment was the right now, right? I can't afford this right now. And he goes, I got your wheels turning, don't I? I go, yeah. And he goes, Larry, this is the last thing I'm going to tell you. If you come and do life with us, it's $500 a month, and it'll be an hour of your time a week on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. He goes, that's the cost. And there's also a cost to you doing nothing. And he goes, and you just got a glimpse of what it costs to do nothing. He goes, call me back in 24 hours with your answer. And he left it at that. And he did not care either way if I signed up or not. He cared because he's a good man, good faith-based Christian man. But it wasn't like he was needing me for his revenue, right? Yeah. I think I looked at the clock. I think 11 minutes had passed. I picked up the phone. I said, I'm in. And that changed my entire life, was that mastermind. And there was no looking back after that. And I understood the power of tribe and accountability and good-hearted men who have the same similar vision. I learned more in 3 months in that mastermind than I probably did 4 years of college. It was great. Yeah.
I love it, man. And it's gone on to obviously become the Dad's Edge Alliance. Maybe for someone out there who hasn't heard you on a podcast or checked out the Dad's Edge, just give us like a quick rundown of what it is, what somebody might be looking for in the Dad's Edge, like what would interest them, and then just a little background about it would be great.
Sure. So when I first started this journey, I think I can speak for a lot of guys out there that, here's the funny thing, right? If you're an engineer, you have at least a 4-year undergrad in engineering, right? You don't go apply for an engineering job, mechanical engineering or civil engineering, without a degree in it, right? Yeah. You don't just walk up and be like, oh, I think I want to do this. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. When it comes to being a police officer, you can't just knock on the door of your local police station and say, hey, I want to be a cop today. That doesn't happen. It takes 990 hours of training from cadet to officer. Same thing, if you look at the U.S. military, there's at least basic training, and that's not even inclusive of what it is you want to do. Yeah. Doctor, 8 years of medical, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, and then 2 years of fellowship and residency before you can cut somebody really open, right? But when it comes to being a father and a husband, all you got to do is say, I do, and know how to have sex. That's about it, right?
That's it.
Yeah. And there's not a whole lot of instruction that come after that. And it's really, really crazy how, and here's the other thing too. And it's it screws with your head because if you look at those two areas of your life, marriage and parenting, I would argue that those are the two most important areas for a man. They want to get those things right, no matter what. Yet there's the least amount of training in it. So when I was falling on my face over and over and over again as a father and as a husband, because I did not know what to do, I finally had enough, and I started just researching. how do I become a better father? How do I be a better husband first? Like, how do I be a better communicator, a better listener? How do I understand my wife? What are love languages all about? Like all these different things that make a marriage work, right? There's 4 elements to an extraordinary marriage. There's your self-care, partnership. That's more the business side of marriage, which is like the roles, the finances, the chores, all that. Then there's friends. You got to be friends. And then there's lovers. Like I actually was on with a coaching client today. He's like, we just had this kid and I want to create this incredible relationship with my wife. He's like, I just don't have the blueprint to do it. I was like, well, what do you think needs to be done? He's like, I don't know, communicate more. And this guy's a business owner. I was like, dude, he's a CEO of a movie theater business. And I was like, when your people come to you and say, hey man, what's the plan for 2023? I don't know. Show a movie, sell popcorn, keep doing what we're doing? Or is there a strategic plan of like, here's our plan for our concessions. Yeah. Here's our plan for our buildings. Here's our plan for our employees. Here's the plan for our movies. And he's like, yeah, we do all that. I was like, you do that in your marriage? He's like, I have no idea what that even looks like. So I mapped that out for him.
Got it.
And you could just see, he's like, dude, this is the easiest and the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life as it relates to marriage. And I was like, yeah, this is the map. This is what, so if you were to measure success in your self-care, your partnership, your friendship and lovers, what does that look like? It's like the first time this guy ever even was exposed to like, oh my God, this is gold. He even used those words. This is gold. So there wasn't none of that when I first got started. Like I looked all over for like, what do I do? Like you could read books and that was about it. So, and the same relates for kids, same with raising kids. There's a map. And what I will tell you is that I got sick and tired of looking around for it. So I was like, well, I'm just going to be a student. Like, I'm just going to learn from other people who are ahead of me. Joining that mastermind was definitely a massive help, but starting the podcast was definitely what started in the right direction. Cause I got to have conversations with experts in their field on marriage, on parenting, yours. Like, listen, if a guy wants to go alcohol free, it's like, what does that look like? Right? Things like that, experts in their field. And then you take those skill sets and you implement them into your journey as a man, husband, and father. And suddenly it becomes very, very clear what you should be doing. But it wasn't until I was completely lost, didn't know what to do. And I got really curious of like, okay, how can I learn this stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. That roadmap that you're talking about like we do it in certain aspects of our lives sometimes, and then we neglect it in other ones. Like Jess and I actually today, we met with a financial advisor just to help get on the same page and budgeting and all that stuff. And one of the things she said, she goes, I work with doctors, CEOs, different people who manage huge budgets, but they don't know how to manage their own budget. You know what I mean? And it's crazy sometimes how like it just reminded me of that with the movie theater example. Like we do that a lot of the time in our work lives or professional lives or different aspects, but then it's really hard for us to do it personally. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a couple different things. We have this expectation of like, well, we've been having kids for thousands and thousands of years. So shouldn't it come natural? Right. And if it doesn't come natural, am I an idiot? Am I broken? Am I this? Am I that? And it's just like, no, man, you just don't know exactly what the right next thing is. Same thing with marriage. It's this is how crazy things are, man. Like I grew up in a home where my mom was married 3 times. Every marriage ended in divorce, and every guy she dated ended up in breaking up. Literally my norm growing up. And even as I say this out loud, I'm like, wow, that was kind of crazy. My norm growing up is the beginning of a relationship means that the end will soon come, or it will eventually come. Right. Yeah. I remember my wife when I was in college, thank God she's a patient saint at this point, martyr, probably putting up with me. Like I'll never forget it. We dated for 7 years. Yeah. And I remember us having conversations. She's like, do you ever foresee us like getting married? And I'm like, why would we get married? That's the first road to divorce. Like, wow. Come on. Right. Yeah. That's terrible. But, the divorce rate's 51%, and a lot of what people don't tell us is the people that stay together. 2/3 of people who are married are settling or completely and totally emotionally and physically detached from each other. Only 1/3, only 33% of marriages that stay together can actually identify their relationship as working, and it's everything that they wanted. 1/3. If you boil that down, that's like, I can't do the math in my head quickly enough, but it's like 12 to 15% of everybody who walks down the aisle, like 1.5 couples out of 10 that walk down the aisle can actually say, hey, this is good. Yeah. But here's the common denominator. The couples that are happy are the ones that they know that this stuff doesn't come naturally and it comes with work, and we have to learn and we have to evolve and we have to grow together and we have to learn these skills, and we're open to that. Right. So I would say the reason people don't want to reach out and ask for help is because it's like this stigma of like, I mean, I don't know about you, but like therapy, thank God, man, has become more the norm. But I remember growing up, man, and even like in college and, my 20s and 30s, if you were seeing a therapist, oh God, you must be crazy. Bad. Something's really wrong with you. Right. So I think that there's a stigma around, if I need help, then I must be a really broken person. And that's unfortunate, because help is where people elevate. The highest achievers on the planet, the people who are operating at the highest level, are constantly seeking mentors and people helping them along the way. They don't do it alone, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's so good. And I bring it, that kind of brings it back to the analogy I was thinking of, like what you have professionals, let's just say a professional athlete. I like Mike Trout. My son's a big Mike Trout fan, right? You don't think Mike Trout has had some of the most amazing, he's one of the best players in the game, but he's had amazing coaches. He's had people supporting him. He's had people helping him along the way. He's failed many times along the way. I don't know how many times that dude's failed, actually. That dude's so damn good, but along the way, he's had all of that support. And maybe there's even on the other side, the psychological, the mental side of it. You brought up, therapy. I don't know where Jess and I would be without marriage counseling and therapy and working on ourselves and going through the ups and the downs together. It's hard, it is. Yeah. It's hard someday, but it's worth it to keep my family, in the best place possible and progressing and trying to get better, trying to get closer. All those things definitely have to have some support and coaching along the way, and a community too. That was one of my buddy Ray. He's almost got, or let's see, I think August was a year. So he's got almost a little over a year now without alcohol. And I said, hey bud, and we've known each other since first grade. He's one of my best friends. What was the biggest reason or the biggest thing that you have been able to stop drinking for the year, and however many months now? And he said it was the community, the mastermind I talked about earlier, us guys in, and the accountability. Yeah. So without that, there wasn't anything. There's a lot of other things that fall in place around that, but that accountability, the ability to bounce ideas off, to get feedback, having people be honest, man, it's such a big thing. That's what Dad's Edge is as well, right? You have this great community of men who are able to talk about stuff.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. I mean, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That is really true. Mm-hmm. The cool thing, I've been doing this work now since 2015, so it's been a while. It'll be 8 years this year, and I will tell you, man. We have about 800 guys in Dad Edge Alliance, and every time, so we have 47 mastermind sessions per week, Sunday through Sunday, 7 days a week. And I facilitate one of the calls, our marriage call, on Tuesdays. And Shane, there isn't a Tuesday that doesn't go by that I don't learn something. I'm facilitating the call, but we're doing a lot of, we're teaching skills, of course, but then we do crowdsource wisdom, which basically means we take the best of their experiences and their ideas and the things that they've done, and we share them amongst all, right? Yeah. And there is not a Tuesday that passes where I'm like, I didn't think of that. And it's one of my members, right, who shares it. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. And here's the other cool thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's ahead of you in age, right? Or ahead of you even in experience. I mean, I've gotten some of the best advice from dudes in their 20s who've been married for 2 years or 1 year. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Or it's a reminder of like, I've gotten away from that. Yeah. I need to do that. Like, and how cool would it be to do that again? Right. And like those types of things. So yeah, I mean, there is such a power in community. I mean, that's why they call it a mastermind, because if you call it 10 people, right, in a group, all 10 people come from different 10 different walks of life, several different thousands of life experiences that have entered into their quote unquote brain or mind, right? That they've experienced, that they perceive, have had failure, have had success. When you get people in the same room that can share that kind of stuff, to use Aaron Walker's lingo, it is the shortest learning curve known to man, because you learn from each other. Yeah. And then the final thing I'll say is this, just by sharing the mistakes, right? If I so for instance, I'm new to the teenage world, right? I now have teenagers. I love being in our virtual masterminds where it's a teen-based call, because now I have a glimpse of what I need to be looking out for based on somebody else's mistake or what they didn't see. I'm like, oh, I need to have that conversation. I need to get in front of that. Oh, I know that's coming. Thank God I learned that. I don't want to be surprised by that. So it's a huge learning curve. It shortens that learning curve so much.
I think the hardest thing too, it's kind of, you kind of hit on it earlier even, is just like asking for help, and the ability to be okay with getting feedback and support. And I didn't know what that was before I met you, before I started Sober Guy. Like I didn't really have any of that. I didn't even know it was a thing, and it's a game changer in moving ahead and figuring out like who you are as a person too, as a man, and being okay with going like, I need some help, which is really tough for a lot of dudes to do. And especially if we're talking about alcohol for a lot of guys, because it's such a normalized thing. Like we have beers, it's what we do. I know you recently, gave up alcohol for the year, right? Like what was your experience, and what has been your relationship with alcohol, and how has that affected you as a father, a husband?
That's a good question. So my genetics are not in my favor. My mother struggled with alcohol. My dad, he says, he controls his drinking like unbelievably. Like, I mean, my dad doesn't drink that much, hardly ever. But he's been very open with like, well, I could be, if I really, if I let myself do it, I could easy. My grandfather struggled with it, so my genetics are strong. And my relationship with alcohol has been, I would say, bittersweet, right? So I would definitely say, like, if you look at me aesthetically, I'm a very healthy person, right? I train every day. I eat right. I'm in decent shape, and when it comes to alcohol, I was never a daily drinker, right? There was something with my alcohol habit like that, that I found that was deep inside me though, a little bit. And I'll explain what that is. So when my wife and I go out on date nights, I'll usually drink like 2 or 3 drinks with her, right? No big deal. Yeah. Well, over the past year, I've lost about 30 pounds. And it's because my 14-year-old had this bright idea to go to do a bodybuilding show together. So I've lost about 30 pounds and I've kept it off. Well, now alcohol really impacts me a heck of a lot different than it used to at 30 pounds. And, go from 195 to 165, it's going to mess with you a little bit more. And what I found is on the date nights, we would have like those 2 or 3 drinks would definitely hit me differently and harder. And I'm one of those people where if I have a drink or two, like I actually don't realize, like I drink faster than what I think I'm drinking. And it's then I realize, oh crap, I'm pretty drunk, or oh crap, I'm pretty buzzed. I've never once gotten belligerent. I've never had a DUI. I've never gotten angry drunk, like where I'm yelling and screaming and I hit my kids or anything like that. In fact, my wife always tells me, she's like, I've always can tell when you're pretty buzzed because you just smile and you hug me a lot and you kiss me and you just tell me how beautiful I am. Like I'm a happy drunk, right?
That's funny.
But I would say the older I've gotten, it hasn't really done me any favors. And I would say, and my kids have never seen me drunk up until this past year. And funny thing was, I went to my younger brother's bachelor party. We were in Charleston, South Carolina. The whole family went. And I went out with my brother, and I came back to the condo that we had rented, and I was hammered because drinking with my brother at this bachelor party, like we were getting after it. And I took an Uber back to the condo, and I remember before I opened the door, I was like, I am hammered beyond measure. Like, and I was like, okay, I gotta play it cool. I walk in, and I guess I wasn't playing it so cool because my 16-year-old goes, "Are you drunk?"
Oh,
Like, he'd never seen me drunk, and I was like,
yeah.
"No, yeah." So
Yeah.
you start laughing. But there, I could also tell, though, this is what kind of hit me. I could also tell he's like, oh, like there was that level of disappointment that he saw, like, and maybe some credibility lost. And that kind of hit me, and I was like, I kind of took a good look at it, and we had this year's summit in October. I'll fast forward to when we said I quit. I was like, I saw this big theme emerging in the alliance of guys wanting to control their liquor, right? And then I saw it in the summit. So at the summit, I said, guys, I'm going 1 full year without booze. Who wants to join me? I had 22 guys who stepped up on stage with me and be like, I'll do it. So we're in an accountability group of 22 people right now.
Nice.
I decided to extend mine. So it was supposed to be from like basically Halloween to Halloween. I'm like, why would I not just finish out 2023? I'd be 2 months away. So I'm doing 433 days.
Yeah.
Now here's the secret. Do I really think I'm going to go back after 433 days? Dude, I'm at day 47 right now. I feel so good. It's not even on my radar anymore to go out. Like I went out to dinner with my brother last night. He had 2 drinks. I had club soda. It's not even on my radar to drink anymore. So at this point, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go back. So,
yeah,
because I feel good.
Yeah. Like why? I think it's so underestimated the impact it has on physical, mental, obviously just health wise overall. When we don't have to rely on that, whether it's in a social setting or it's to relax from stress. And it's not to say that there aren't times. Like I've been in times, and I haven't drank in, over 9 years. And it's like, there are times when, and I call it the little bitch setting, the little bitch mode I'll get into, where I start having the pity party. Right. And it's like, well, I can't, dude. So I've gone through that, where it's like, oh man, and then you think about it again, you go, man, I don't really need that. It's like, why? What does it do? I've never had anyone come to me and say that they drank a lot and something positive happened. Have you ever heard that? Like, I mean, I just haven't. So it's like, why?
Jim Gaffigan, he's a comedian. I don't know if you know who he is.
I love him. He's great.
Yeah, dude, he's got a joke around that. He's like, nothing good ever happens out of being hammered drunk. He's like, yeah, I went out and got hammered last night, and then I built some low income housing. Like, no one does that.
Yeah, what is the point? Yeah, it's funny, man. Well, that's great, dude. I love that you had, and I think that your 22 other guys stood up. I think that actually says a lot about where we're at, just as men out there. Like, I know there's so many dudes out there who they just don't know where to start. They just want to take a break. Maybe they want to see. Everyone's situation's different. Some can be severe. Some can be not severe. It's just like, hey, I would like to take a break. And I would always say, like, man, try 30 days without it and see how you feel, and I can guarantee you're going to feel better after those 30 days. It might be a little confusing and tough, but you're going to feel better, man. And you get so much more done. I feel alive again, after cutting that crap out. And it's poison. It's literal poison you're putting in your body,
Yep.
And it affects different people differently. But I know I want to stay conscious of time here. I know you got a new book coming out, The Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. That sounds amazing. What's the deal with the book? Yeah,
man. It's not out yet. It's done. It has been done. The launch date was supposed to be September 26th, but my publisher went bankrupt, and thank God I found out 6 weeks before the book launched. I would have hated to be like, oh, the book launched, we're bankrupt. So I'm glad I found out before I did, because he signed over the rights to my book. And so I actually hired an agent, which I never thought I'd even say that, which makes me feel kind of important, even though I'm not that important, but it made me sound cool. Because agents have connections to, publishing houses, and I don't. But she's out right now shopping the big 5 publishers and that kind of thing. So we're hopeful we're going to get a book deal at least by the spring. But yeah, the Pursuit. So it's a totally finished book. Like literally I could go on Amazon right now and publish it.
Yeah.
Everything's done. As far as how it's divided up into 4 parts, and it's a big book, 285 pages. Don't let that scare you guys. I promise it's an easy read. Yeah. But it's divided up into 4 sections. One is the current state. So like what men and husbands and fathers are just faced with, like what's on our mind and heart, what is in front of us right now, right? That we feel, that we're against, all these things. The second part is husband. Like, how do we create an extraordinary marriage? I get very specific and very tactical on like, these are the skills right here, and here's how to use them, right? And I wish somebody would have told me this before I got married. The third part is father. I have it divided up in all kinds of sections under father, raising daughters, raising sons, how to create environments of psychological safety where even your teenagers will open up and talk to you about anything, like things like that, like very tactical skills and stories and that kind of thing. And then the final one is the 10 pillars of leadership as a man, husband, and father. I have that divided up too. But yeah, very easy read, and it's divided up. I wanted to write a book to where a man could take it off the shelf and go to the section he needs right now.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I like that.
So that way he's not like fumbling through it and it's story. It's like, oh, well, if I want better communication, I can go to this chapter. It's right there. Yeah. Right. So things like that.
It's almost like a dictionary for men in a sense, like for your life, huh? Like father, husband, business leader. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I like that because I know sometimes I'll pick a book up and I'm like, oh man, this looks like it's really long.
Right. I think
where do I start?
Books, right. Guys buy books on no matter how much they weigh, right? Like it's almost like you go to the grocery store and you weigh it, like, oh, it's too much. That weighs too much. I'll get one.
Yeah. We're not doing this one. Let's pass on that one.
Right.
Oh, that's good, man. Yeah, dude. Well, congratulations on that. I'm happy that you found the publisher that was going bankrupt first too. That would have been a real pain. It's funny how things work out like that too. Like maybe you were supposed to possibly have a book agent the whole time. You know what I mean? And just took that to end up where you're at right now. And that's probably going to be the better route in the long run. I would almost bet. So good stuff, man. Congrats on that.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap. I'd love to do one of these and chat again, sometime soon, man. If you're up for it, come back on. I'm sure we're going to get some questions and hopefully get some dudes reaching out with questions or anything for you. If people want to reach out to you in particularly, where should they do that?
Yeah, you can send me an email if you want. You just email me at info@thedadedge is the easiest way. I mean, everything we do, you can be found at our website. So we have a bunch of free resources right now. Like I've got video training on how to communicate better with your wife, getting ready to launch ways you can be more present with your kids. Like literally physically, mentally, emotionally, be more present, like tactically. Like no one ever teaches you that. They just say, yeah, just be intentional. But you're like, yeah, well, how do I do that? But everything can be found at the Dad Edge, and the podcast, you can find the podcast. Like you could probably age yourself 5 years, because I think we have 1,000 episodes to date with the podcast. So you could literally binge the podcast and probably never end there. So
awesome,
lots of
man.
stuff to find.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. I should encourage you guys, check out Larry's work, the Dad Edge Alliance. And Larry, man, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today, bro. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you back.
Hope something spoke to you today. Share the podcast with a friend. If you're tired of drinking, check out our 30-day challenge at thatsoberguy.com. Connect with us on Instagram at thatsoberguypodcast. Peace, love, and respect. Keep your blood clean.